waiting for a man who says he's going to blow the lid off the secrets of the religion of the stars, to tell the story of the dark side of the Church of Scientology.
Hi there, Mike here. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am really happy to continue now this YouTube effort that I'm making. As you know, probably if you watched any of my earlier videos, Aaron and Mark Headley have both been helping me. This is the first video that I am doing all on my lonesome, and I am trying to see if I can pull it off without resorting to the expertise of my two friends. We'll see how this goes. I wanted to talk about a subject that comes up pretty often, and I want to lay out and describe why it is that Scientologists lie. And Scientologists do lie. In fact, every single Scientologist lies. And the proof of that is if you ask a Scientologist about the OT materials or Xenu, they will lie. They will lie that and claim that it's fiction, or it's not really true, or it's I did it myself. I did it myself on national television. It was justified in my mind that this was protecting people, and I'm going to explain to you how Scientologists rationalize and justify things way beyond just not talking about the OT levels. I mean, if you ask any Scientologist, they will tell you that it's okay to be a Christian or a Jew and a Scientologist, when those who are advanced in Scientology know that that's absolutely not the case. So why is it that Scientologists believe it's acceptable to lie? Well, there are a number of things that are written by L. Ron Hubbard that sort of lay out the pattern, and I'm going to walk through those in this video so you will understand what the thought process is that Scientologists are going through, and how they manage to seem so at ease with lying when other people would find this kind of objectionable behavior and perhaps be a little embarrassed, or worried that what are people going to think about me. That just doesn't happen to be the case when it comes to Scientologists lying in order to protect Scientology. And we got to start with the most fundamental writing of L. Ron Hubbard, the document that is at the beginning of every study course in Scientology, and it is called Keeping Scientology Working. And Keeping Scientology Working is a sort of a mantra that is used by Scientologists all the time to describe the fact that it's a shorthand for we're doing Scientology the right way. We are doing Scientology as L. Ron Hubbard said it was to be done, and we are dedicated to this cause. At the end of that lengthy policy letter where Hubbard lays out how you go about making sure you're doing the right thing, and how it was that he managed to come up with all the answers to all of life, he admonishes Scientologists with the following. He says, "The whole agonized future of this planet, every man, woman, and child on it, and your own destiny for the next endless trillions of years depend on what you do here and now with and in Scientology." Okay, so Hubbard is telling Scientologists that this is a deadly serious activity. The success or failure of Scientology is what is going to determine the ultimate outcome, or the ultimate fate of every person on this planet. And Scientologists take this very, very seriously. They truly believe that the destiny of every man, woman, child on this earth, and actually beyond this earth, is in their hands, that they are responsible for making sure that Scientology succeeds. And only when Scientology succeeds is everybody on earth going to be saved. So this is a really important concept that you've got to understand when you are looking at what a Scientologist is doing and saying. Hubbard also wrote a lot of things about how you decide what is good or bad, what is acceptable behavior, what is unacceptable behavior. And the most fundamental concept is contained in the policies or the writings that he did on the subject of ethics and justice. And they are compiled in a book called The Introduction to Scientology Ethics. And within that book, there is a chapter that talks about what makes something good or what makes it bad. And he says in there, an optimum solution for any problem would be that solution which brought the greatest benefit to the greatest number of dynamics. Now, what that means in Scientology is dynamics are the 8 urges towards survival. And Hubbard broke them down saying, the first dynamic is the individual, the second dynamic is his family, the third dynamic is the groups that he's in, the fourth dynamic is all of mankind, 5 is living things, 6 is the physical universe, 7 is the spiritual plane, and 8 is infinity, the undefined God or all-knowing, all-seeing something or other. But when you are looking for what is good or what is bad, you judge it based on what creates the greatest benefit across those dynamics. And this concept isn't, a bad concept, except for the fact that there is a sort of hidden what Hubbard would call a held down 7, which is something that comes out of Dianetics, where he talked about a typewriter having a held down key, and that held down key influences everything. It makes calculators go wrong. And this is the idea in Scientology that every Scientologist, their third dynamic consists of Scientology. That is the group or the main group that they are part of. There may be other groups that are part of their third dynamic, but when they are looking across these 8 dynamics to see what gives the greatest good or the greatest benefit to the greatest number of dynamics, they always look to the third dynamic and Scientology. And this is where the trick is. Scientologists believe that Scientology is beneficial across all of the dynamics. So if it's good for Scientology, it's good for mankind. It's good for every group. It's good for every family. It's good for you. It's good for living things. It's good for the physical universe. It's good for the spiritual universe. All those things are benefited by Scientology. So Scientology and the third dynamic is weighed way heavier than the rest of the dynamics when it comes to an individual making a decision about what is good or bad. The idea that the solution that is optimum brings about the greatest benefit to the greatest number of dynamics. So I think that it's probably pretty clear to anybody who isn't a Scientologist, because they don't get this. They don't look at it this way, and it's very strange. But it's pretty clear that for a Scientologist, a decision about what is good or bad or beneficial or pro-survival decision is always going to be the decision that results in the most benefit for Scientology. because in turn, that spreads out and will benefit all the other dynamics. So how does this work? Hubbard also said here in that same thing, to be good, something must contain construction which outweighs the destruction it contains. A new cure which saves 100 lives and kills one is an acceptable cure. Okay, well, again, sounds like a fairly simple concept. You develop a vaccine for polio and it saves thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, but a few people die because they're allergic to the vaccine. That sounds like a perfectly normal and rational thing. But realize in the minds of a Scientologist, this equation creates the idea that it's okay to kill someone if it's saving 100. Not that it's okay to just to develop a vaccine, but that the sacrifice of one person or more than one person to save the entire planet is an absolutely acceptable sacrifice. So I'm not talking about necessarily killing people or people dying. I'm talking about, is it acceptable in the mind of a Scientologist to lie about and destroy the reputation of someone who is saying things that they believe is hindering the ability of Scientology to save the planet? Absolutely. There is no doubt about that. Every Scientologist looks at that equation and goes, it doesn't matter what we do. We can lie about, trick, harass, sue, do anything if that person is in some way a hindrance to Scientology being able to save the world. And it's not even a close call. It's not even like, I wonder if this is going to be okay. No, in the minds of a Scientologist, that's it. You are someone who is determined to be an enemy of Scientology or thought to be an enemy of Scientology. It's basically okay to do anything you want to that person to prevent them from hindering Scientology's advance. So we then get to, what does Hubbard say about truth? And, he's written a lot, but there is one particular policy letter that's contained in the Public Relations series where he talks about what is an acceptable truth. And in fact, it's very Orwellian. He has redefined a lie as being an acceptable truth, something that he describes like this. He says, you don't have to tell everything you know. That would jam the comm line too. Tell an acceptable truth. So PR becomes the technique of communicating an acceptable truth and which will attain the desirable result. This is, in Scientologists' minds, the Hubbard justification for how they can simply say things that are not true. They're acceptable truths. They're not lies now. They've become acceptable truths. And that makes it somehow more acceptable and palatable to them to engage in that sort of activity. And I know that when I was being the international spokesperson for Scientology and lying my butt off routinely about things because I believed that was the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, and that it was something that was a necessity in this terrible battle to save mankind from the evils of psychiatry and big pharma and everything else. that what I was doing was actually telling acceptable truths. I was telling truths that would gain advantage for Scientology and wouldn't, and you've probably all seen or heard of the infamous Tommy Davis interview where he said that there was no such thing as disconnection. um, yeah, that was an out and out lie. He considered at that time that that was an acceptable truth. And if I had to go into the mind of Tommy Davis back then when he was saying that, he was literally passing terms and sentences to say something that he thought was actually going to be acceptable, but he just really didn't understand what it was that he was saying, so it just kind of came out and has been used ever since. But in his mind, he was saying the acceptable truth that what you are telling me about how Scientology engages in the practice of disconnection isn't what Scientology does. That's not exactly right. The way that you said it wasn't exactly right. So that became an acceptable truth in his mind. And it is an acceptable truth for, the Twitter trolls to say and accuse people of things that they have never engaged in, calling them embezzlers or calling them, or a wife abuser in my case. These things in the minds of Scientologists are actually acceptable truths. They're not lies. They are what they have been told is the case, and they repeat them, and they believe. And there's a lot more to this particular subject, which I'll go into in future videos. But there is a lot of other stuff about how you can be sure that critics all have crimes and that they're all, accuse them of whatever you want. Hubbard lays all this out, but I'm just sticking right now to the very narrow issue of why does Scientologists lie and why do they think it's acceptable to lie? Now, let's add another element to this, which is another very important writing that Hubbard put out. And every Scientologist believes that this is sort of a fundamental thing that they follow in their life. They follow as a Scientologist, and it's called the Code of Honor. And the Code of Honor, I've just excerpted the exact 15 points that are contained in here. But number 12, never fear to hurt another in a just cause. Obviously, Scientologists believe that it is a very just cause to destroy the enemies of Scientology, or at least shut them up. And so hurting them with lies or telling lies about them isn't something that they feel they should think or feel badly about, because Hubbard says never fear to hurt another in a just cause, and there is no more just cause than protecting Scientology and seeing that Scientology survives. And then finally, there is the exact statement by L. Ron Hubbard when he describes fair game and what that is. And here, this is the penalties for lower conditions, or the fair game policy letter. And you can see that it says that someone who is an enemy, fair game, may be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist without any discipline of the Scientologist, may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed. Okay, it doesn't get much clearer than that. L. Ron Hubbard tells Scientologists It is okay to lie to someone who is an enemy. And while Scientology claims that the fair game policy has been canceled, the truth of the matter is the cancellation said the use of the term fair game is canceled, but the treatment of suppressive persons does not change. And that is absolutely true. No change in what is acceptable and what should be done to deal with suppressive persons was ever made by L. Ron Hubbard. So it remains the policy to this day that the enemies of Scientology may be lied about or lied to or tricked or sued or deprived of property or whatever. It's all in this just cause of saving mankind through getting the technology, as he called it, of Scientology out to the whole world so that everybody may be set free. This is fundamental Scientology, fundamental Scientologist behavior. They will lie if they feel it serves their purpose, and they will lie with absolutely no remorse when they believe that they are lying about an enemy of Scientology, someone that Hubbard says may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or deprived of property. And this is why it is so difficult sometimes for law enforcement or others to understand what they're dealing with when they're dealing with a Scientologist. They will lie under oath. They will lie in deposition. They will lie in courts. They lie because they believe it is the right thing to do. But everybody should recognize that when they see Scientologists saying outrageous things, or even statements coming from the organization itself saying outrageous things about people they don't like or people that they consider enemies, you can pretty much be sure that what they are saying is not true, because they believe that it is acceptable to lie about people to destroy their reputation. And so that is what happens, and it happens over and over and over. I'm going to go in another video or another effort that I make on YouTube beyond this into what is law enforcement, how does this impact law enforcement, and what does law enforcement have to say about it. But I just wanted to limit this one to these fundamental concepts of Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard. I actually have a blog post that I wrote about this called "Why Do Scientologists Lie?" which contains all of these references that I've just laid out. I'll put a link to that in the description. I thank you for taking the time to watch this and tuning in to this channel. I hope that you find this informative. I'd like to hear from you about things you would like me to talk about or discuss or break down in the world of Scientology. And if you want more information, like I said, there is a lot of information that's contained on my blog. I have written many, many articles over many, many years breaking down various things in Scientology, and it is there really as a reference for people looking for information or trying to figure out or make sense out of some stuff in Scientology. Anyway, until the next time, thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.